if you've got a child or grandchild or great-grandchild that you're having trouble getting into golf, you might not be doing the right things. I'm going to show you what I've learned over the years and how I recommend getting a child started in the game. Patrick started with me probably 30 years ago.
Yep, Ed's junior golf program over in Mid Rivers in Missouri here.
Yep. And so I've worked with thousands of juniors over the years probably, and still enjoy doing it. And I think what we'll have to offer you'll enjoy. One of my favorite things to do over the years is to have a junior program, and I've been lucky to have, gosh, I couldn't tell you how many kids.
Thousands and
probably,
thousands,
yes, over the years, and hundreds of them that's played in high school and hundreds of them that's played in college. So this is for you guys that's got kids or grandkids or great-grandkids. It's kind of what I've learned and how to introduce your child, boy or girl, into the game.
Yep.
So one of the things about golf is it's kind of lonely and it's really difficult and frustrating. And so every kid's different. And so the main thing is, especially if they're pretty young, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, to figure out what kind of attention span they have. They're all different. But most of them have shorter attention spans than they're going to have when they're teenagers. Absolutely. As far as practicing is concerned. So make your practice sessions and driving range sessions short and sweet. And if they hit balls for 5 or 10 minutes and want to go play in the sand trap, well, let them do that, okay? And so that's one of the biggest pieces of advice I have is it has to be fun. They're never going to make it. The kids that make it at a high level and continue to play it for the rest of their life, it's fun. So this has to be a fun game. And it's difficult to make this game fun because it's quite frustrating as you keep getting better and better and wanting to improve. So always keep that in mind. The other thing is this, it's very important. There's so many good club manufacturers now that manufacture junior equipment. When I started teaching, and if I would have a junior camp with 30 kids, back then maybe 1 or 2 kids would have their own clubs. I would spend several weeks before the season started cutting down adult clubs with steel shafts and heavy.
That's what I started with. I was my dad's old clubs. I'd swing those, and they were heavy, and I was 7 years old, so I didn't have much strength to be swinging those around.
I agree. And so, but nowadays when I have a junior clinic, every kid's got their own set, and they got golf shoes, and they look like little pros, and it's really amazing the difference in 30 years. But I recommend U.S. Kids Golf. They make great equipment. It's easy to figure out what size your kid needs, and just check out U.S. Kids Golf. And they have trade-in programs. Don't skimp on them. When they get clubs that fit them, when they outgrow them, trade those in or give them to First Tee and get them some more. And just keep them in clubs that match them. That's really important.
I remember as a junior, I had a junior set that I got after my dad's first ones, and they were pretty short, and I was growing fast at the time. I was probably 8 to 10 years old, and by the time we started working together, all of a sudden you're like, you need big clubs, because I was outgrowing the little ones, and that was one of the first things we did is got some steel shafted irons, and they were probably half a foot longer, and all of a sudden I was hitting it much better because I wasn't trying to make a club that was too short work for me.
Yep. And so, and a lot of the bad habits they end up getting in as an adult could very well be because how they learn to play with bad equipment causes them to do bad things.
Yes.
And it's especially if it's too heavy, boom, boy, a lot of times the only way they can hit it is to come over the top with it.
Yep.
And so keep that in mind. The other thing, we've done a video on this that's been pretty popular.
Absolutely.
And if you've got a child, they should practice with this training aid. And so I'll just say it that way. Learn how to make it, learn how to practice with it. For adults, it's 30 inches long, but if you got a kid that's only this size, this flashlight might only be 15 or 16 inches long. And so you can make it to their size as well, but if you'll teach them how to swing the shaft like this flashlight stick, and I'll let Patrick give you the link.
Yeah, we'll put a link in
And
the
so
description so
I
you
won't
can
go
watch
into
it.
any more detail than that, but if they're not practicing with this, you're making a big mistake. If it's the easiest way at an early age to get them to swing correctly, and it'll be a swing for a lifetime.
Yep.
The other thing that I would tell you is that, you know, I'm in the Gateway PGA here in Missouri, and all you have to do is contact your local PGA section, and you can find out who the best teachers are in the section, who wins Junior Golf Awards, who wins Teacher of the Year Awards, how long they've been doing it, how close they are to you, proximity-wise. Golf Digest always has their best teachers in the state. That's a pretty good resource to see also who the best instructors are. Don't just, the assistant at your golf club might be the nicest guy in the world, but if he doesn't really spend his time teaching, you need to find somebody that knows what they're doing. And you know, the best teachers teach the best no matter what the age is. And so I would highly recommend finding the best people in your area, and that'll help you. Also, I would find out there's another organization or method for junior golf called Operation 36. And it's a great concept, and most areas will have 1 or 2 or 3 golf professionals in that area that are teaching with that system. And for kids, it's pretty good. They play 9 holes, and they have to shoot 36 to graduate farther. So they might only start out 10 feet from the hole, and they have to shoot a 36.
That's cool.
Playing 9 holes, 10 feet long. And then the hole might be 20 feet if they graduate from 10 feet. And then it might be 10 yards off the green chipping, and they've got to shoot 36 to get to 50 yards. And they've got to shoot 36 at 50 yards to get to 100 yards. And so it's a great concept and a great way to learn how to play, even for beginners, not just juniors.
Well, we've talked, I think, on the channel before about how in the old days you would learn to start from the green and work your way back to the tee. And these days everyone wants to start on the tee and work their way towards the green. And it's a lot harder to learn that way potentially.
Great, and that'd be another piece of advice I'd give you for your juniors. Start at the hole and work your way backwards. And play games with them, play contests with them. They love that. They love, you know, the way we as adults hit balls on the range is we'll have a bucket of balls and we'll hit 50 of them with our 7-iron. Have the kids play a course on the driving range. Say, hey, we're going to go to that orange flag. It's 100 yards away, and have them hit their driver, then have them hit a 9-iron, and then have them hit a 7-iron. And if you change clubs all the time at a young age, it'll really teach them how to play the game. So I highly recommend that. And then the last thing I'll say, and this is maybe the most important point, especially if you have a junior that you can tell is really a good athlete and really has a great aptitude to play golf, is when you go to the golf course, you have to make par matter. And here's what I mean. So if little Sally can only hit her driver 100 yards with her best shot, well then no par 3 should be longer than 100 yards at the most, but I would like them to be able to hit irons. So I would say if you can, the par 3 should be 50, 60 yards for somebody in that case. I like the par 4s if they can only hit it 100 to be 120, 140 yards, maybe 150 max. And then the par 5s can be 200 to 250 yards. And why that's so important, kids aren't dumb. They'll learn real quick what par and birdies and bogeys mean. And if they know it's a par 4, but it takes them 7 shots to get to the green, this game's not fun.
Yeah, it's discouraging.
Right. And so they have to have a golf course that is based on their ability. And the red tees or the forward tees aren't close enough on most golf courses for that.
Well, the junior program you had at Mid Rivers had the gold tees out in the middle of the fairway, and it made it really accessible for us when we were younger to be able to have a chance to get a par.
Absolutely. And if they have a chance to get a par, say they can knock it on a green in 2 shots on a par 4, well then 2 putts matter. And they'll learn to 2-putt because they want to make a par, and they'll make a birdie every once in a while. Or if they miss the green on their 3rd shot and they're chipping, it becomes important to get it up and down. But if it's for a 9, you don't care, I don't care either. Does that make sense? And your kid won't care either. So play a golf course that matches their individual best shots. And as they keep getting older and older, they'll get used to shooting good scores. That's the beauty of it. They'll get used to shooting good scores. And as they keep moving up, as they get bigger and stronger, they're used to shooting good scores, and they'll continue to.
Yeah.
And so that's really important to understand, that build their own course where par means something, and that'll help you. Once they get to the point where they are shooting good scores, I do recommend competitive golf. That U.S. Kids that I told you about, that's a club manufacturer for kids, has their own tournaments regionally, locally, and nationally, and it's a great avenue. They play very short courses depending on age, and it's a great avenue. They allow you as a parent or grandparent to caddy for the kid. Our Gateway section, if you're here in the St. Louis area, has a great junior tournament program as well. They have a different philosophy. As the kids, once they get 8 or 9 or 10, I can't remember the exact age anymore, but they're not allowed to have an adult caddy, that they just have to caddy for themselves, and the parents can watch, but they have to stay on the cart path. And so it's 2 different philosophies on how to learn to play. I think both of them are great. I encourage my parents to play in both. So the kid has a caddy, in some cases, but is on their own in other cases, and there's a lot to be learned in both environments.
Yeah.
So.
The one other thing that comes to mind for me, I started when I was, let's say, 7 years old, somewhere around there, and my brother also started around the same, but he was a couple years younger. And I stuck with it a lot longer than he did. And he's arguably a better athlete than I am. I think he had better potential than I ever had. But I think the big difference is that my friends' parents all got them involved in it too. And so I had a group of, 5 to 6 golfers every week. We were playing the leagues together, and we all grew together. And we weren't great, but we all enjoyed our time a lot more, whereas my brother didn't have as many of his friends involved. And so he only stuck a couple of years until he kind of got tired of it, whereas I played into high school.
Yep, and that's what I meant earlier, where this is a pretty lonely game. And so it helps to have friends. It helps to play in tournaments where you get to know other people, the same people playing all of them. You'll like most of them, and some of them you may not.
Yeah.
But the most of the people that play this game are pretty good people.
Yeah.
And I think, if you make it fun, you make it interesting, introduce them to the history of the game, have them watch on TV. I don't think kids today watch enough golf on television. It's important for them to watch so they can see the etiquette, they can see how they mark balls on the green and stuff like that. I mean, it's one of the best ways to learn is by watching. They don't have to watch for hours, but man, if you let them watch the last hole or two to maybe see some young player win for the first time and see how important it is to them, I think it'll really influence them to want to play.
Yep.
Okay?
Absolutely.
All right.